Hi, welcome in. It is Tuesday night, and we are here with Topics and Tidbits Live, Wizarding Wands and Mickey Ears, chatting all things Disney and Universal, as well as throwing in a few tips and tricks for your first or next trip that you're taking. So thank you for joining us live, and for anyone watching the replay as well. So I'm Catherine Ritchie. This is Jennifer McCormick. Jennifer's working on getting that shared out to everyone as well. So before we launch into all the news and start chatting, we appreciate you hitting that thumbs up as well. If you're not already subscribed to our page, just clicking on that bell icon lets you know anytime we go live, when we're in the parks or when we're releasing new videos. We do that quite often of resorts and room tours and just from our trips. So again, you can enjoy it if you're dreaming about a trip or if you're curious about finding something as well. So, and as always, feel free to comment. Let us know if you're watching, if you have a question while we're chatting or something you want to share. We'd love that as well.
Absolutely. And I'm just laughing because I had just shared an SNL post with my sister. And for some reason, that's what it wanted me to share. I kept
that would have been hilarious.
I kept trying to copy and paste. Oh boy. So yeah. So, I have the right thing posted now. It's not the SNL.
Cut and paste does not always like to, well, at least you figured it out before. Knowing me, I wouldn't have known.
I was looking at the thumbnail. I'm like, wait a minute. That's Sally O'Malley. That's not.
That is not the Wizarding Wands and Mickey.
Oh boy. Happy Tuesday.
I know. Happy Tuesday. We were saying it's beautiful in both our parts of the country, which we're thrilled about. So if you're having great weather and maybe you're on your patio watching or listening to us, I hope you are. Yeah. Both agents with Mickey Travels and Let's Adventure Travel. So Planet Disney and Universal destinations. Completely free. So giving you all of the expertise and help that you need. Answering questions along the way as well if you become our clients, but we do this really as a courtesy. We love talking Disney and Universal and sharing what we know and then sharing some of the news things that can really affect trips happening as well.
Absolutely. Well, and we've had some news. So we didn't go live last week. And so we've got a week to catch up on. But gosh, where do you think we should start here?
I mean, there was a lot of news this week, I feel like, coming out of Disney World as well. So we can start there. Right. But for those that I was taking my son to a haircut tonight after work, and I said, we were at Disney World soon. You could go to the barber shop.
I'm so excited to see that's reopening. It's just one of those things. With Disney, it seems like the spas and the salons and, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique and the Harmony Barbershop, they've really taken a long time to reopen. At Disney World and Disneyland, they've been open on the Disney Cruise Line.
Right.
Since, the cruises have restarted last fall. So I think we're all pretty anxious for some of these things to start coming back again. The Harmony Barbershop, if you're not familiar, it's located in Magic Kingdom, right as you're entering onto Main Street. And it's an incredibly popular place for first haircuts. Mm-hmm. And so, I know a lot of people who wait on that first haircut until they can go and get those special Mickey ears and get a certificate and have that experience and the pixie dust. The glitter and, enjoy all of that. So, but it's not just for little kids. It's for, all ages can go and get a haircut at Harmony Barbershop. So.
Right. And we'll be reopening at the end of July. So not right away, but again, that is one, if you're thinking about that, or you want to have that as part of your experience, you want to book that ahead as well. So we hadn't talked about that one coming back, I think, because most of the questions we get is about Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. Right. So probably most people know what that is or can ascertain from the name as well. But Disney's confirmed it will reopen at Disney World and Disneyland this year.
Later on this year. They snuck it into the announcement about the Harmony Barbershop. So there was nothing about it. And then the last sentence specifically said Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique will be returning to Disney World and Disneyland later this year. So that's as much of the scoop as we know. But I mean, if you are not familiar, this is a place for kids ages 3 to 12 to get dolled up as princes or princesses, whichever they prefer. They have some special hair designs that they do for, the kids, if depending on, what they select. And then if they want, you can also add a dress and makeup and of course, glitter and nail polish and all of that fun stuff. And so, but it's specifically geared toward ages 3 to 12. So not older folks, not adults. This is for young kids only specifically. And
as you can imagine, it's incredibly popular. I mean, that's another one when you're thinking of when those windows open and booking in advance, that's when you want to do, and you want to be strategic. We have tips on that about, what time of day or partnering that with a dining reservation and things like that. So, so more to come when that starts to, when we hear when that might be opening, we can chat more about that, but it's another enhanced experience for your prince or princess.
I'm excited to see it come back. It's one of those things that we did a lot for a few years. And then all of a sudden my kids were done. And they were done earlier than I was done. I'm saying, are you sure? Are you sure you're done? I mean, like 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. 7 and 8, I think, was the last time they went. And then they wanted to do other things. They didn't want to get all dolled up anymore.
And that was like my daughter. I mean, there's 5 kids between us. And yeah, I thought that she would be into it longer and she wasn't, I kind of waited to do a couple of things. So I kind of feed that in the sense that some people ask us like, what age should you take your children? Things like that. I mean, you just never know. And you're doing as much for you and those memories or to have the pictures. But I love walking through the park even now and seeing, well, it hasn't been the past few years, but since the pandemic, when you see them dressed up, or even now, you'll see them in princess dresses and costumes, and to tell them they look beautiful is like the best, their little faces, and everyone's telling them that all day. How fabulous if we lived somewhere in the world if it was like that, but it's a really magical part of it. I would just so Disney.
Oh my gosh, my kids ate it up when they were younger. And I mean, they don't dress up at all now. I mean, their idea of dressing up is like jeans and a flannel.
Teenagers.
They did like to. I mean, they were the kids who would put on, skirts and then climb trees. So they weren't dainty by any stretch of the imagination. But they were wearing, I mean, they wanted to be frilly then, and now it's jeans and a flannel.
That's great. But you have the pictures and the memories.
I know. Someday they might want to dress up again. But
They will. And if you follow us on our Facebook group or Instagram, you'll occasionally see our kids pop up in there with the memories, and we're sentimental, but just fun to kind of look back at all those great memories we had with our families too. So which is fun.
Well, I know. And this is, a little bit off topic, but I just feel like we've never had any shortage of things to do though, when they were done with the stage of being interested in dressing up as princesses and, visiting princesses. We are never not busy in the parks and on Disney World property still now, with teenagers who are completely different than they were as little kids. So, so there really is something for everyone, every age, as your family grows. So.
Yeah. And our kids are older between the two of us, but we've been there since our kids were little. And so it is so true. Again, that misconception, or maybe you thought, I didn't go when they were little. Is it still going to be fun?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the character meals are still, they're still asking for, we're talking about August. We're going in June and again at the end of August, but we're staying at the boardwalk in August. And my daughter's like, oh, well, the Riviera's on the Skyliner. We have to go to Topolino's for breakfast because Topolino's Terrace has a character breakfast. And she's like, that's my favorite. So we have to go there because the Skyliner takes you right on over to the Riviera. It's about a 9-minute ride. And so, I love how she's thinking strategically already.
Oh, that's so fun. So, I think those are the things that are just, it's again, my kids are the same way. They'll ask, like, we always go to one. What do you mean? Okay. Right. Because again, they remember just what you do when you get there. So.
Right. It's fun for all ages. Oh goodness. What else? Well, we didn't really talk, I don't think, a whole lot about Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party.
Right. A little bit, but it hadn't opened yet for tickets.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. But tickets went on sale last week for resort guests. They go on sale tomorrow for off-property folks. So anybody, general public, not staying at a Disney World resort, those tickets will go on sale tomorrow. And I have to admit, I'm surprised that nothing sold out with resort guests, that nothing sold out yet. I really expected Halloween and the first party to sell out for lots of reasons, because the after hours party did last year. Mickey's Not So Scary did when it, announced for the 2019 year, the last time it was Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party. But also the ticket prices are lower this year than they were for the after hours party last year.
Right.
So ticket pricing sometimes goes up, but sometimes goes down. And so last year it was an after hours party. It was shorter and it cost more. And so, I'm wondering if that means the capacity is a little bit larger for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party than for the after hours party. I guess that would make sense because it spans a longer period of time. Not everyone is there for the whole party. But for those of you who are unfamiliar, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party is a really fun, specially ticketed event at Magic Kingdom. It goes from 7 p.m. until midnight, but you're able to get in as early as 4 p.m. on a party ticket. If you don't have a party ticket, Magic Kingdom closes to you at 6 o'clock. So even if you're not planning on going to the party, make sure you know, again, what those dates are and plan around them, because on the days that the party is offered, you won't be able to see fireworks or spend the end of the day in the park. It will close at 6 o'clock and only be open to the guests who are there for the special event. But, I guess I wasn't too surprised about ticket pricing, other than the fact that it went down in price. But, August is $109 for most of the dates per person. And then it goes up in September and October. A lot of September dates were $119 per person plus tax. And then October was getting into the, 159, 179. Some of them were 139. And then Halloween was 199. Not surprisingly, that's fairly common for Halloween night, of course, to be, the most expensive night for the party. But I'm interested to see what next week will bring when the party tickets go on sale to the general public. If things will sell out, if certain dates will sell out then.
Yeah, and there's a lot of dates, so know that. So again, maybe if this isn't of interest to you this time, or you're thinking it doesn't matter, you do want to be looking at those park hours. Again, if you're booking with us, we're telling you about that as well, but making sure that you look and say, okay, well, if this is our Magic Kingdom day, it's not going to be a full day like maybe we planned. So that's just something to be thinking about as well.
Well, I suppose, we should think forward too about the Mickey's Not So Scary, Mickey's Not So Scary Christmas party. No, Mickey's Very Merry Christmas party. Because they have the Christmas parties as well. And those usually start second week in November and go through right before the week before Christmas. And they are just as frequent. And so that's something still that you'll want to keep in mind when you are making your park reservations for November or December is, keeping an eye out for the Christmas party dates and whether or not you want to go, what that, how that's going to impact your day. Because Magic Kingdom, presumably it'll be the same thing, back to, what it was in 2019, I guess is what we're all assuming, which would mean Magic Kingdom would be closing early, just like it was for the Halloween party.
And we know it's hard because we don't have those dates yet for the Christmas party. So it's really guessing, but just being able to pivot. As an aside, I get asked a lot, well, when are the parks decorated for Christmas? And we should probably say, when are they decorated for Halloween as well? So August for Halloween. And then literally the Halloween decorations come down. If you're visiting at the end of October and then you're there through the beginning of November, you'll see both. You'll get to experience Halloween and Christmas. So just that's something to think about as well. And those decorations stay up into January as well, typically. So,
usually until after marathon weekend, the first weekend of January.
Right.
And it's specifically for the parks. So the parks, and Magic Kingdom first. Magic Kingdom gets decorations first, and then it matters through the rest of the parks, and then the resorts. So the resorts don't necessarily go Christmas right away. Things will be set up usually the week before Thanksgiving, the week of Thanksgiving. I've been there when a tree has gone up at Animal Kingdom Lodge, and that was, the week of Thanksgiving is when I was there when the tree was going up one year. And so, for the resorts, it's a little bit later into November. And then it comes down a little bit sooner than marathon weekend as well. But the parks are decorated for a while.
Right. So, which just adds another level to it. I think, we've both obviously been there when it's regular and then when it's decorated, but it is really fun to be there for both of those.
I know.
So those are things we can help you get booked as well. If you're interested or have more questions, we're happy to talk more about that.
Right. I guess other Disney World news, huge Disney World news still is Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind has been, people have been enjoying the previews. We know more about definitively what it will look like to be able to ride it. And it will be, an individual lightning lane or a virtual queue. And just like when they had the other virtual queues for Rise of Resistance for Ratatouille Adventure, guests are able to try for those virtual queues starting at 7:00 in the morning. And then at 1:00 if you're physically in the park. So you have to be in the park to try for the 1:00 on the virtual queue. Otherwise, the individual lightning lanes go on sale for resort guests at 7:00 in the morning for the entire day. And I'm sure that those are going to go really fast. Right. Yeah. I wonder what they'll charge for them. 15, 20? I don't know.
I mean, I would hope it stays that way. I mean, I think they could charge so much more, obviously, but
I hope it's no more than 15. I feel like 20 is getting to be a bit much.
No, I was thinking the same thing too. Or I was trying to remember when but gosh, I hope not.
I think they were mostly 7 to 15 at Disney World, maybe a little bit more at Disneyland. They're Genie Plus at Disneyland.
Yeah. But Disneyland Paris, you were talking about how much the pricing. I just didn't know if this would be one where they could roll it out and it would be $50 a person or something insane.
Don't. I'm going.
I know.
In June and
I hope not. I think they'll probably have it at that amount because you have the virtual queue option or the lightning lane. I think it'll still be that way. And if you're hearing virtual queue may sound like a foreign language to you, we have, it's how a lot of rides, I think this will probably be the future of it. The new rides coming out is they don't want people standing in line for all day, never make it on. So the virtual queue is something you're using. Your My Disney Experience as your guide to Disney World. And that's something you can use on the website. It's also on your phone. But that's where you're accessing the virtual queue. And you do have to be lightning fast, and we have tips and tricks for that as well. So been on a couple of other rides and has come off of it, and we knew this was probably anticipation of some new things opening as well.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, if you're interested, if you are heading to the parks on May 27th, you want to know what a virtual queue looks like, you can head on over to our YouTube, Wizarding Wands and Mickey Ears. What's the name of that? We've got a playlist that's got a couple of them there. There are the how-to videos. Yes. And so I've got the how-to video on what the Ratatouille virtual queue looks like, the how-to video on what the Rise of the Resistance virtual queue looked like. They're identical. And so I think all of our assumption is that it's going to be exactly like those two. Look, the Ratatouille queue, was up still early this year in 2022. So it's just one of those things where now with this ride, you only have the option of virtual queue or individual lightning lane. So there's no standby at all right now. So if you don't get the virtual queue or the individual lightning lane, then you won't be riding it that day. So that's just something there.
Yeah, maybe that sounds overwhelming, but it is great though, in the sense that you're not having to stand in line all day and hope that, or that's where you spend your whole day. And that's the whole idea, is that you're having a better experience, and Disney can manage crowds and all of those things as well. So, but yeah, our how-to videos are so helpful, so many different things. So again, if you have questions or you're looking for something, you can search in there, but you can always reach out to us as well.
Yeah. And with any luck, we'll have a how-to for Guardians of the Galaxy, but that means that I have to get it.
If anyone can get it, it is the McCormick family.
So we'll see.
You have pretty good luck, so we'll see.
Yeah, we've got a couple of days planned for Epcot, as our park, at least to get started before we hop somewhere else. So we'll see what that looks like. Fingers
Yeah, so
crossed.
that's coming quickly. Of course, our friends at Mickey Blog and a lot of others that we know will be there covering it as well. So you'll probably see us sharing that. We know a lot of people that have already been on the previews of it and are raving about it, that it is the best ride they've ever been on at Disney. And these are people who've been on everything. So,
I'm trying to like wrap my head around, what does it mean? What do they really mean that it, it's a coaster, but it turns, but I don't know if it spins, so I don't know. And it's a reverse launch. So you launch backwards and somehow you turn around.
I know.
So, I haven't actually watched any of the videos. So I
don't want to know. I just know. I want to, whenever I get there, I just want to be able to fully experience it. That is what I did with everything. I didn't know what anything, I did snippets so I could guide people, but I really wanted to fully experience them. So,
I do know I'm planning to start taking my motion sickness meds a few days in advance, I
will say the description, I was like, oh, okay. Cause if you at Universal, there's a couple that are, people, I think you've talked about it, others that it was just too much, too extreme. So it sounded like some elements like that, but you are moving. It's not
twisting and sideways and backwards sometimes. So I don't know. I don't know. But some of the Harry Potter stuff at Universal gives me, pause. And so I don't want to, I don't want to miss part of my day. So I'm certainly going to take motion sickness meds. I do before I get on cruises. I do anytime I plan to take, spend a day, even on large coasters or rides. I never used to have to do this as a kid. I still love all the fun, big rides, but I do have to take motion sickness meds now. And there's no shame in that. So I take them starting at, a couple of days before, even if the flight's bumpy, no issues. And then, if I'm on a cruise, I'll continue to take it for several days after the cruise for, what they sometimes call land sickness, where you feel like you're still moving when you get off of a cruise. I don't necessarily feel like I need to do that after a Disney vacation, but if a flight is especially bumpy, I will the next day, after getting home too, just as a precaution.
Very smart. Yeah. There's a reason that medicine exists. So even just I think in your mind, it can make you feel like, okay, I've got this. I'm good.
Right.
It does affect you as you get older. I'm telling you, this never used to bother me either.
Or an aging.
Cheers. Yeah. So those are the big things happening at Disney World, I would say. The one last thing we saw, and this was news we saw today, I think we talked about it 2 weeks ago as well. We're seeing more minivans throughout Disney World resort property, not running, so not picking people up as far as we know, but just out and about. So maybe training new drivers, maybe just teasing us. I'm not sure. So this is another transportation option that you do pay for, but they are the cutest little, think of them as, if you're familiar with Uber and Lyft and taxis and things like that, that's what these are, but they look like cute mini dress with Disney employees that are driving. So that has not been back since the pandemic as well. And the parks reopened, and it was a great option. So many people love them for so many reasons.
Well, they have car seats, so that you're guaranteed car seats, which is wonderful. Pre-pandemic, we were able to book them, as part of a package for airport transportation. So you could arrange for them ahead of time for Orlando International Airport transportation to your resort. And then if you wanted to get one while you were at the parks or at your resort, you would go through the Lyft app specifically to book minivans. And then there was an option for minivans. So I have to imagine that that's, what we'll be seeing again. Right. I hope it seems like that's what we'll be seeing again. So, time will tell, but they've been moving them around. I said that earlier during that weekend, I saw them moving and they were all there. Big tease. So I think that a lot of us expected them to be back already, but I have to believe that they're starting to train drivers.
I think so. I'm sure that's what it is. And we haven't actually talked about it in a while, and we're going to now, of course, I'm having my epiphany halfway through, is that we have been getting questions about capacity in the parks as well. We could not tell you a percentage. We had struggled at early stages of the pandemic guessing, I think they gave us a number at first and then never really gave another one. It's busy, and busy meaning, I don't know, would you say back to normal?
I still feel like even with the parks at capacity, with park reservations sold out, it's not as full as it was pre-pandemic.
Agree.
So there is some limiting. There's definitely some limiting of people in the parks. It's busy. If you've not been around crowds for a long time, and then this is one of your first forays back into public, you're going to feel like it's packed. Having been to Disney World over the span of many different years, lots of different times of the year, I consider this to be, sort of moderate. It's definitely I've been there, shoulder to shoulder people. You can't walk through very well. It's not that. There's still crowds. You're still not necessarily always walking at the pace you want to walk at, especially me, because I'm too fast. I want to just walk a little bit faster, and people are sauntering, and I'm like, I don't saunter. I don't know how to.
I know where I'm going.
Personality flaw. But it's always been a thing. But there will be people in front of you, but it's not like you're going to lose your party as you're trying to get through crowds. And that was the case before. And that brings up another question. A lot of people have been asking, well, what about crowd calendars? And I have to say that capacity is capacity. And so crowd calendars are not what they were. They're just not what they were. And what we're seeing is the parks are busier all year round than they ever were before. You can expect the parks to be at capacity. Everyone's traveling. Now, what the summer will look like, I guess I don't know. I feel like there's a lot. It seems like there's still a lot of open availability as far as resorts go into July and August. So maybe they'll fill up, maybe they won't. But when we're looking to, October, November, some December dates, the resorts are booking to capacity and they are legitimately full.
Yeah.
When we've asked this and they've said, no, we're not holding rooms back. We're really this full.
Right. Well, and I think that's the thing, because I've had those questions more. And again, if you never visited the parks during the pandemic, like if you only visited them beforehand or have never visited, I don't think you'll notice and say, oh my gosh, if you visited when there was no one in the parks or you were visiting at 35 or 40% capacity, of course it's going to feel different.
That was nice.
I know. I was like, gosh, it was like a year ago. I was there during that time when it was quieter. Or if, again, you have not in your family, for whatever reasons, haven't been out in a lot of crowds, it's probably just going to feel like more people. I think we're all getting out more, and that's becoming a little more. But yeah, it is. And that's why we're not seeing availability at some resorts, not because they're holding inventory back. It's because, again, it was that backlog of everyone who was waiting to travel, didn't travel, put trips off, put them off, and now they're going. So, June. But again, we're seeing some availability in summer. There's also some resorts offline as well because of upgrades and things like that. But yeah, I think you have
portions of some resorts, not whole resorts.
Yeah, not whole resorts. Yeah. No, just sections, which limits our inventory as well. So yeah, I think you have to be prepared that it's definitely going to be busy. So, and not a bad way. So a great way to get a feel for that too is we share it out. Obviously, we're not in the parks, Mickey Blog and Resort TV. There's so many. You can get an idea of the crowds. And even when I pop on and watch, you're still able to walk. Like it's not I call it the mass of humanity. Like Jennifer's describing.
Right. That's what I call it.
I use mass of humanity a lot. So just in terms, I'm like, yeah.
I know.
So
I'm interested to see what it'll look like at Christmas this year, because that, is typically the week between Christmas and New Year's, typically the busiest time of year. But now everyone has to have a park reservation. And so if you were normally an annual pass holder and you would just pop by, you can't do that. You have to have a park reservation. There are more reservation spaces made available for people who are staying on property. So I'm an annual pass holder, but because I'm staying at Disney resorts every time I go, I have the Disney resort availability versus the annual pass holder availability. So that is definitely limited. you're seeing fewer annual pass holders in the park, and they're not selling annual passes right now. Right. So these are all folks at this point in time who've renewed because they've allowed renewals. And then there's one limited level of annual pass that's already blocked out during the busiest times of the year anyhow, for Florida residents only, that's open, at Disney World. And so it's just something else to keep in mind that with these park reservations, it's, putting a different spin on what's busy, what's capacity, but again, we've said this before, we'll say it again, make your park reservations, even if they're tentative, make sure that you've got park reservations right away, because the last thing you want to do is forget about it, be a month out maybe, and not have availability for the parks that you wanted to visit, in the next month. And that has happened, and it, continues to happen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, and I think that's another point too. So we mentioned crowd calendar and you say like, what was that? Well, there were predictions based on modeling of when the parks would be busy, and you could use those to a certain extent. Of course, we would always have that caveat of, we're going to tell you what our best advice is, but you just never know. And I think, again, we were seeing that shift a couple of years before the pandemic, but especially since the pandemic, that life is short. People are going to travel when they want. I mean, there used to be 10 years ago when I started, truly these seasons that were slower. And we used to travel then because our kids were little and it didn't matter. they pulled them out. And now that's just not the case. I mean, it really is. You're seeing families there all the time. Breaks are different. There's some people in year-round school. I mean, there's so many reasons for that. But I don't think you can readily list, these are the times that are great to visit. We can say it's a little quieter, but it's not as stark in comparison as it used to be.
Well, really, I mean, yeah, as far as these are times that are great to visit, it's the pricing piece as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. And I've been spending some time pricing, helping folks price like the week after Thanksgiving and then every week until Christmas, because they're trying to figure out when to go in December. And the truth is, it's just incrementally more throughout December, I've noticed. And so like November 26th is the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So that's when pricing is at the lowest. And then the next week's a little bit higher. And then the next week's a little bit higher. Next week's a little bit higher. And then it's Christmas and it's the most expensive, rooms of the entire year. So yeah, so that's interesting to see. So, I mean, Disney does have different pricing and, the same thing with rooms and tickets. It's all date-based pricing now. And so that's, more where my head goes when I think about when are the best times to visit. You can expect everything to be pretty much fully booked by the time it gets to that point. Right. But if you're planning in advance, there are certainly weeks that are less expensive and might have fewer people. And so the annual pass holders might come, but they might just come in the week or on the evenings or, whatever. So they'll have the park reservations, but they're not necessarily spending a whole day in the park.
Right. No, that's a great point too. So just a lot more to think about now. That's why having a travel planner helps you make sure you're checking all the boxes and you're taking care of all those. Absolutely. We talk about this all the time, how much we love haunted houses.
So much.
We know we have a following because of that, because we talk about it so much. So we're sorry that neither of us really love them. And my oldest was literally already talking about, I can't wait until Halloween. And this is the haunted houses I want to go to. I'm like, okay. Or maybe this Cedar Point is here and they do one too. So Universal did announce. So again, Universal still not really any special news necessarily coming out of Universal right now, but they are teasing very hard all of their haunted house, spectacular, scary stuff happening. So the first haunted house was revealed today. I was laughing as I think I was going to tell you about it. I was like,
because you knew you wanted to talk about it so bad.
I was so excited. I had to write it down so I'd remember. So Wolfman, Dracula, and the Mummy will be together for the first time. Some of you may be very excited about that, and we're happy to help you book that, but we will not be going live.
I used to like haunted houses when I was a little bit younger. Maybe I need to get back out there and try it again. I do get creeped out. I mean, I know they can't touch you, or in most places they can't touch you.
They're not supposed to.
At most haunted houses, but I don't know.
Okay, if anyone's going to do it, it'll be you. You'll be like, well, I just decided to try it out.
I'm gonna try and see what I think.
Yeah, again, it's more adult oriented or,
Right.
older teen. I mean, the performers are just spot on. I mean, there is a lot. It's a great experience. It's why it's so popular. It's why locals are there. It's why people incorporate that into their trip. But I'm just wanted to share that.
Yeah, well, and Halloween Horror Nights, if you're interested, tickets are on sale now, and then they also just released the Express Pass specifically for Halloween Horror Nights, because that's a special extra purchase. And again, when we're talking about park hours, just keep in mind that this event starts, I want to say, at 6:30 at night, and so Universal Studios closes at 5, and it's most nights, I want to say, except for Monday and Tuesday for the most part in September and October at Universal Studios Orlando. And so you can expect Universal Studios to close at 5, and then Islands of Adventure, if you have park to park tickets, tends to stay open longer, maybe 7-ish or so.
Right.
So, I mean, just keep in mind though that then Islands of Adventure gets really busy because everyone who isn't attending Halloween Horror Nights that night, Universal Studios closes, they head on over to Islands of Adventure. So just something to keep in mind. So if you've got Express Pass, you're staying at a premier resort, you definitely have priority in those evenings at Islands of Adventure.
Yeah. I guess because Universal knew we did not have a lot to talk about. They wanted
to throw a few things out
there.
Well, Disneyland has some big news.
Yeah, a lot, which I was excited to see too. So, a little bit since we've had more news.
I know. I was really excited to see that Fantasmic at Disneyland is coming back. Not Disneyland yet, Disneyland. So in California, they are getting their Fantasmic back. It's celebrating its 30th anniversary, and it starts back on May 28th. And it's a fabulous show. If you are going to Disneyland, go see Fantasmic. Even if you've seen the Hollywood Studios version, I will tell you a little secret. If you are more of a Disney World person, which I don't think is much of a secret, Disneyland's is better. It's Fantasmic is better. It's different, and they do things that Disney World can't do in the space that they have. And so it's phenomenal. So go see it, even if you feel like you've seen it before. And the best way to do that is with the dining packages. And so they're reintroducing the dining packages as well. And so with Fantasmic, they normally have 2 table service restaurants that are involved in dining packages, and then 1 quick service. And we've done the Hungry Bear quick service one, which is great. You purchase it ahead of time. I'm not even exactly sure how much we spent, maybe $30 per person. So definitely more than you would normally spend at a quick service. But then we got our special passes to get, our specific seating. And it's not seating, it's more standing room only, but everyone sat anyhow on the concrete because it's tired. It's late. Yes. It's late and they're tired. It's tired and they're late. That's how I'm feeling now.
Clearly I'm tired because that made sense to me.
Right. It's a great option, and it gives you priority seating. You don't have to worry about it. You're going to eat anyhow, pay a little bit more, get that space. But also, and now I can't even remember which is open and which is not. So I'm going to look at my notes, but Disneyland, they normally have 3 available, and right now it's only 2. So the dining package, can't believe I have to look up my notes.
Oh, no, it's okay. So so Fantasmic and then World of Color. So both of those, just some great options.
So the River Belle Terrace is open. Blue Bayou hasn't opened yet for their seating section. So you can book it with the River Belle Terrace. It's River Belle Terrace. I can talk. $50 per adult, $30 per child. That's a table service restaurant. And then you get priority seating, and that's lunch or dinner, same price. But then, as Catherine was saying, World of Color is back as well. And they have dining packages and dessert party. So you've got a few options to see World of Color. And that's a beautiful show.
That is too. I mean, it's just it is. It's a very different experience than Disney World shows too. And I when I first saw it, I was like, okay, you're standing on the concrete. I thought, how good could this be? But it's good.
It's really good. Yeah.
Pretty, and it's very different. It's not what you would be expecting, which I love too.
I know. Well, and we did the last time we were there, we did the dining package for it. And I really like that. I mean, doing the dining package and then having the guaranteed seating. I don't know. Next time we go, we might have to consider the dessert party just because my kids are really into dessert right now. That's going anywhere. And they can temper their, their dessert consumption, unlike when they were younger, and then it would just make them ill. So, but I mean, either way, I think it's definitely worth, checking into some of the dining packages or dessert packages. Again, I don't feel like they're excessively more expensive than what you would find, with a table service meal or a quick service meal. Anyhow, and I mean, you're paying for having that priority space. Now, World of Color also has a virtual queue that's available as well. It starts at noon. And so, if you're there and you think, well, I'm going to try to get into the virtual queue, be prepared at noon. Apparently they still have, plan to have some walk-up space available most days, but it sounds like that's really limited. So with World of Color, I think your best bet is to grab an advanced, dining package, but if not, jump on and try to get that virtual queue so you know that you've got a space.
Yeah, it's worth it for sure.
Oh, I don't know when I'm going to Disneyland.
I know. I read all that. I'm like, oh, they have all those things.
I keep looking at it and there just aren't enough weekends and there are not enough days in the year and, not enough money in the budget with how expensive other things are getting right now. So
Right. I know.
I need to get out there because it's awesome.
It is. It's something. Yeah. So something to keep as an option too, if you're open to, you just want a Disney vacation, let us price both of them or talk about the pros and cons with you. We're happy to do that about what might be a good fit as well.
Right. Well, especially if you know that you are only wanting to do a shorter trip. I feel like Disneyland is right up your alley. If you just want to do a couple of days in the parks, maybe, just a 3-4 day trip with, flying in, flying out, going to the parks for a couple of days, Disneyland is a really nice place to consider. And it's nice because you have Galaxy's Edge, which is in Disney World, but then you've got things that Disney World doesn't have. You have Avengers Campus, you've got Cars Land, their Pixar Pier is fantastic. I mean, it's just different. So it's not duplicative. You have some, similar things in the parks, but then you also have lots that's different. So it's not like you're going to experience the same things. And even with the same rides, they're different. Space Mountain is different at Disneyland and Disney World. Small World is different. Haunted Mansion is different. They're all different.
That's a great point too. So something to keep in mind. Disney Cruise Line. We talked last time about a lot of the itineraries are out and going back to Alaska and Europe and the Bahamas, summer of 2023. So those itineraries are out. We can help you book, as we talked about with cruises. You want to book in advance to have the most options and your choice of itinerary. And I'm working with a family right now that's booking 4 staterooms. And again, they're going to have more options the further out they book. So if they want to be right next to each other or trying to get them all as close as we can and meeting all their specific needs, it's just a lot easier to do that further out, which is nice too. So just be thinking, if you're entertaining the thought of a cruise, which my kids are watching, we are, again, finding the time.
Right.
Children, busy children. But again, just be looking at that. And this, we're happy to look at that for you, but even just looking at dates and what might work and see that too. But
and especially as you mentioned, if you've got multiple parties traveling together and you want to get connecting staterooms, I had a family who wanted 4 in a row. They were looking at spring break cruises, and there was literally one set of veranda staterooms, 4 in a row left on the whole ship over some spring break dates. And, I called in, I said, this is what I think I'm seeing. She's like, I'm seeing it too. Let's get it booked because I wanted to make sure that everything was really connecting and that I was seeing everything correctly in my system as well. And so I called into Disney Cruise Line to book that specifically, but there are some spring break dates where your connecting staterooms are hard to come by.
Absolutely.
In some cases. So definitely.
Especially if you, for these clients, had a really specific deck in mind, wanted those combinations. There's one that needs to be accessible. So just with all those factors, and also, I highly, if you're set on those dates, maybe you're not exactly sure on pricing, get it on hold. So at least you have it. And that's what I did today. We got them all on hold. Then they can review things, see if they want to make changes, because it's so hard and heartbreaking to go back and say, it's not there. And what you wanted is it's not available now.
I always hold my breath when I know that something is limited, and I try to explain that it's limited. But I think, folks, there's a misconception about, maybe us maybe wanting to upsell, or, I'm not trying to sell you something. Everything's refundable. I just want you to have the best possible opportunity. So put a 3-day hold, put a deposit on it. If you're not sure, you can always cancel, that's okay. But there are certain things that we just know are limited. Like I've got someone right now who's looking at 3-bedroom grand villas at Disney World. They're unicorn. You don't pick your dates. The dates are selected by when you can find a 3-bedroom grand villa, if that's what you're looking for. And so, there are things like that you just really have to secure early, or they're gone. Same thing with discounts. Don't think there's a discount. Say, yes, please put a hold on that, Jennifer or Catherine. That's what I want that 3-day hold to think about it.
Yeah, it's so true. It's true.
It's happening a lot when people think overnight about a discount and that's gone.
Yeah. Again, and talk about inventory moving all the time and things happening, and zillions of people trying to make those decisions too. You just want to, if you see it, you snag it then, and then we kind of go from there. So.
Right. Yeah,
absolutely. So some new testing protocols. We're about as excited about this as we are about the haunted houses. I'm
not thrilled. Just the ease of it. There are certain things I like about it. So with Disney Cruise Line, everybody, even those who are vaccinated up until June 7th, everyone still has to test at port before you get on the ship. Everyone has to test just to make sure that they don't have COVID now. And that was, again, up until June 7th, Disney was covering the cost of that testing. So you would get to port, you would test, you would get on the ship. Of course, if you tested positive, then, that would be a different circumstance. You wouldn't be able to board, you'd need to make alternate arrangements. Now, what they're changing that to, starting June 7th, is that all guests are vaccinated. So everyone who is 5 or older, because you're required to be vaccinated to sail, you're required to test, they say, up to 2 days prior. And there are certain types of tests that count. And then you upload that by the night before you're sailing, but you test on your own dime, upload that before, and then you're good to go. So it's nice to know in advance that you're negative and that you're good to go. So I think there are some real positives there. If you don't do that, you're still required to test at port, but then there's an extra fee of $75 per person plus tax. So it's still possible to test at port. There's just some extra expense involved in that I didn't have in my budget, because that's a lot of money. That's an extra, $300 for my family. Whatever, we'll pay it, but we'll be at Disney World before. And so a lot of folks have, cruise travel. And so just figuring out the logistics of, where do I get tested? What should this look like? And so it's my understanding that Safe Passage will have tests that you can order from them. And they are, they're rapid tests, and you can schedule a time to have them supervised, via Zoom or via, some live chat, and do it right there, have it supervised via the live chat, have everything certified in the moment. And so I think that's something that we're going to look into, because then we can just do that we can order in advance, do it from the resort, have that all uploaded, ready to go, a couple of days before the sailing, and then, one less thing to worry about. But it is an extra expense that families weren't putting out for a while there. So, so for those of you who can find free testing, great. But I don't think that I'm going to wait on that. We'll plan ahead, and we'll probably purchase something that we can do.
Right.
This was just announced today, so I'm still sort of wrapping my head around what that looks like. What are some of the best options for folks? We don't have a car most of the time when we travel, so we can't just drive to a Walgreens or CVS or something like that for a rapid test, or a community location. We need to figure out how to do that without a vehicle. So something to keep in mind.
So just something different to think about. And, if you're booking a cruise out a year from now, we don't know what it'll look like too. This is just what it is right now. And again, I think we all appreciate Disney Cruise Line has been just working really hard to keep everyone safe, and they have invested a lot, that they're testing everyone to ensure it stays that way. And that's worked, which has been good. So
I know. And I mean, I have to admit, it's been stressful to get to port and then to test. And I realized,
I haven't done it because that's my fear. Yeah,
I've done it twice now, November, and then we went again in April. And I realized that I didn't get, I wasn't excited until I was getting on the ship, until I knew I could, the anticipation of being really excited about a trip and really excited to be there. And I was still excited, but I didn't get that, adrenaline rush of excitement until I knew we all tested negative. We are good to go.
We're all getting on.
Right. So, I mean, the nice thing about this is that you can know 2 days before, upload everything, you're golden.
Right.
So
I think that is really, that's at least, and it's a little more cumbersome, but you're not sitting there thinking, okay, worst case scenario, or, thought we were good. And it's, a lot of people were testing before they left just to make sure. And
I was definitely using the home tests.
Yeah.
Before we left.
Don't we all? Yes. So there's Natalie. Okay. So anyway, we'll keep you updated. Obviously, it just came out. So there'll be some more details, and we'll hear about that, and especially as things develop more on that front. But just something to keep in mind. We knew there would be some changes coming. We just weren't sure when or what it would exactly look like too. So.
Right. Well, and I think the other thing is that for children, 0 to 4, they still have to do the pre-test, but they're still testing them at port as well, according to the information that came out today. So they had to do a 72-hour test and a test at port. So it looks like that's staying the same. So if, children are too young to be able to be vaccinated, that protocol is a little bit different.
Right. Well, and one thing too, I believe it was in the past few days too, that the nursery has opened.
Yeah.
How did we got thrown off by the protocol?
Because I don't have babies, but I saw that. I saw notes, just a quick post on a Disney Cruise Line, fan Facebook page that It's a Small World nursery was open on the Disney Dream.
Yes.
And we hadn't heard anything. Disney did not announce anything.
No.
So we didn't know if they're slowly rolling it out, but it sure sounds like it's open.
So that's, again, a piece that has not been back since cruising returned as well. So that's very exciting for people who want that option for their little ones to enjoy dinner or whatever you might want to do for even 2 hours and feel like an adult with those babies.
Because the nursery is only for kids who are too young to be in the kids clubs. The Oceaneers Club is age 3 and up. So it's, kids older than 6 months, because you have to be at least 6 months to sail, up to 3. And it is an additional cost. I want to say it's somewhere around $8 a half an hour, maybe. So there's an additional.
It's so long since we've looked at it. Yeah.
I know. Well, it's been closed.
Right.
So it's not free. You do have to reserve your time, but it is a great option for families with young kids. If you just want to have a few minutes, and they have a great time. I mean, just like it with all of the Disney kids activities and adults activities, you're completely entertained and taken care of. And so it's a wonderful option for the really little ones.
Yeah. So exciting. Yeah.
I guess speaking of little ones, Aulani.
I know. I'm gonna let you talk about this one. You love this.
Oh my gosh. I am madly in love with Aulani, and a good friend of mine just got there today and is posting all kinds of pictures. And I am dripping with jealousy because we don't get there until November. But Auntie's Beach House is a kids club at Aulani, and it's finally reopening. And so things are looking a little bit different than they did before, but it's an amazing space for kids who are younger. Right now, the activities will be ages 5 to 12. It used to be 3 to 12. So, I mean, we'll see if that changes. And then, you reserve your time, which wasn't necessarily something before. It was first come, first serve before, but it would fill. And so now you reserve your time, that's dedicated, to your family. But then in addition, they're also doing some evening activities for families from 4 to 9 p.m. And they are special upcharge activities. I don't think we specifically know exactly what those will be. And they are booked, usually with those types of activities at Aulani, they're booked once you're there. And so it reopens May 25th, though. Auntie's Beach House reopens May 25th. And so that is super exciting. And, as a parent who had gone to Aulani with young kids, I loved it when my kids would just do some fun stuff and mom could, not have to worry about it.
Right. Well, I think that's such a big piece of Aulani.
Right.
And that's why people were really excited, because people had been there before, were thinking about it. You want to spend time with your family, but to have that option, and kids love it, and parents loved it because their kids had such a great time. So the fact, again, that is back open is really exciting.
Oh my gosh. And the theming is adorable. It's called Auntie's Beach House, but it's right in, this resort. And so you don't know what to expect, but you have a space that looks like, it looks like you're walking into a house with cubbies, and you've got a living room-ish kind of area, and then a crafty kind of area that's sort of like a garage-ish, a game area. They've got a nice protected playground area in the back that's, dedicated only for the kids in Auntie's Beach House. And it's just so well done. It feels like you're walking into more of a home environment than, the daycare type of environment, if that makes any sense. Yeah. It's really, it's Auntie's Beach House for a reason. So, and then Auntie is there and, takes care of all the activities. And so it's a blast. Oh, I can't wait to get back.
Getting closer.
But this is a great, space. And again, not every kid, loves that environment. I know once my oldest got a little bit older, all she wanted to do was sit and read. Like, well, you can sit and read in Auntie's Beach House because mama needs a few minutes to herself. I'm such a good mom. No, but they're older now, so don't worry about that. But, but it's a great environment. Definitely take a look at it. They manage the space very similarly to what a Disney cruise does. And so as if you're not familiar with Oceaneers Club with the Disney cruise, you get basically a specialized magic band that, kind of locks on for the kids. And then you also have to have a password, to pick the kids up. And so, it's linked specifically to you. They've got pictures. They know what you're supposed to look like when you show up. So it's incredibly, it's incredibly secure, well organized. It's, a very safe space.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, so fun.
Well, good. We had a lot to chat about, which we're glad to do. And we'll be back next week. Who knows what they'll be on another Tuesday.
I know. I keep thinking every week, this thing, we can't have news. We can't have more news this week. We had so much past couple.
I know. We did. There was a lot of big stuff and just some good reminders. Like we try to be here to do that as well. So.
Right. And then, I'll be heading to Disney World just for a long weekend, June 2nd. Later on the day, we won't get there until the evening, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to live stream, around Port Orleans French Quarter, where we'll be staying for most of that stay. But again, of course, priority is getting on Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, and my daughter's birthday, because that's why we're going to her birthday. The priority is
minor detail. Yeah.
And Guardians of the Galaxy, but I fully intend to try to find a time to live stream for a little bit around the resort. It's a small resort. Mm-hmm. And so, it might not be all that long, but I'd love to be able to provide some of that information to you. So you get a feel for what the resort looks like.
So cute. I love it there.
Gorgeous. Yeah. I can't wait to get back. It's been way too long. Yeah. So it'll be nice to see it.
Good.
All right. Well, gosh, thanks so much for joining us this evening. It's been really nice chatting. Thanks again to the Chamberlain family for always putting something in the chat.
I know.
I'm sorry, Paul, I missed it. The minivans. You said the minivans are just, they're a great way to get around because the cast members are really knowledgeable. Yes. And they do. Yes. It's a different experience than taking a standard lift. But yeah, thanks again for joining us tonight. Keep an eye on our Wizarding Wands and Mickey Ears YouTube channel. I try to post as much as possible. Usually those videos go live on Fridays, but live streams, will happen at any time, especially when we're traveling. And see you